Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being the show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Legacies. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, let's pick up with Hope's situation. Lo and behold, waking up in New Orleans, and I love that she's immediately like, right, this has got to be like some fake New Orleans, like this has got to be a memory or something, and lo and behold, it was kind of what I thought. I was like, okay, so who's going to be the people that, is it going to be Rebecca, is it going to be Freya? In fact, it's going to be both. In actuality, like, most of all that remains of the Michelson family, it's kind of there. And even Marcellus, which I like that he popped up. I kind of got spoiled on that. Not even just like seeing like Charles, like, is it Charles Michael Davis, the actor who plays him? Not even just that. I already knew because I want to say maybe on the CW, the trailer for episode 15, the thumbnail was of Marcellus. So I was like, I kind of wish I didn't know that going into this, but still, it was kind of nice having like, because he's still as much of the Michelson family as anyone else, so it's almost interesting that all that remains of the Michelson family kind of is there to try and reach out to Hope to bring her back. And obviously she's trying to fight back at every point, every moment they're trying to reach out to her, but she's like, right, if you really believe that, it's like, oh, if you believe that it doesn't matter how you feel, then why'd you, like, we are sorry that we weren't there for you. She's like, I don't need that apology. It's like, then why'd you say something if that wasn't the case? Especially when it comes to Freya, it's like, right, she kind of snaps at Freya because it's like, right, you're the one that kind of gave the okay. She's like, I thought because you were going to be strong enough to handle whatever happened, and sadly, I'm disappointed because you had the strength to face that, but you chose not to, because essentially Hope subconsciously chose the easy route. And I love that being this complex thing, that there are layers to this whole thing, because eventually Hope even asks herself, right, at any point in time, like, you are the one, Hope Michelson, you claim to be the version of herself with her humanity on. You chose to cut your humanity off, even though you want to say like your feelings and everything matter and they make you strong. You decided to do that, but even she's not 100% sure why she did it, on some subconscious level, why that happened, why she did it. But her family's doing everything they can to try and pull her back. In fact, they're saying that today, it took a while, but it's going to be Klaus's funeral. I guess maybe they were able to get Klaus's ashes and maybe not Elijah's. I mean, to be fair, Hope had a very complicated relationship with Elijah, especially at the end of it all. Because it's like, right, you kind of played a part in getting her mom killed, so there's that. But with Elijah, maybe it's like he kind of did already move on because he's reunited with Haley, so maybe that's like okay. So maybe they don't have to worry about him as much. But even Hope is saying, my dad won't move on until I'm okay, which obviously considering the circumstances, that's not going to be currently, so. But they spent the last 3 years doing something, and that's collecting Klaus's ashes. It's like, right, they were scattered to the winds, but using magic, they were luckily able to retrieve all of them, so. Now it was a family gathering to decide not only Marcellus, not only Freya, not only Rebecca, but also Cole as well. So, like I said, I like that everyone gathered for this, because it's like, right, what did the Michelsons do best? If we bicker, and they couldn't decide what to do with Klaus's ashes, so it's like, right, the choice has to come down to Hope, because it's what Klaus would want, and she has to be. They all came to the conclusion it's only right that she does that. Because obviously they also understand what Hope was going through. It's like, right, we as the Michelson family have done so much damage over the years. There's been so much death and destruction, but we kind of was able to move past that and realize there was so much more, that we were so much stronger because of family. Family has always been the most important thing, to them, and I just thought it was beautiful. I actually didn't remember that whole like thing that Marcellus and Hope had about like the point system. I don't remember that at all. Like, I wonder, was that something that came up at all during like during the originals, or did that happen like in between? Because I don't think that ever popped up in the final season or anything like that. So I'm assuming that had to be a thing that probably like happened in between stuff that I never really. I don't think that ever. Maybe it did pop up in the show, and it's been a while, so maybe I really don't remember. But I thought it was interesting because Marcella's point was right. I wanted to teach you that you were basically being too hard on yourself. That no matter what bad you do, that there will always be the good will always outweigh it. But that's also the complicated thing. Like even she can recognize I've been doing some bad lately that has potentially like shifted the scales. I also love the whole conversation of, wow, I can't pick up a toy, but I can sit down. Like, what's the science behind that? And he's like, it's magic. Why are you able to stand there without continuously falling through the ground? We just basically have to accept it as magic and shut up and move on. It's paraphrasing, but I love that. It's just like, it's magic, shut up, move on. I love that. Just kind of accept it as it is. It's like, I'm not going to get too caught up in the semantics of, it's magic. That's all you really need. So... But I did think it was interesting that because at the end of the day, the spell that's anchoring Hope here, she's the only one keeping herself here. Yes, Vincent anchors her here, but she can leave at any time. And if she can't leave, it's because somewhere deep inside she doesn't want to. So it's like, fine, I'll give you the answer that the humanity version of myself would. I want my dad's ashes. There's plenty of like trees that can spread it around to. And that way... he'll always kind of be with me. And even Cole being like, right, it'll give us an excuse to kind of visit more. We'll have an excuse to kind of be around each other again instead of just kind of being off, because he references like Davina sadly couldn't, shows up and she was kind of beating herself up for not being able to be here, but still. Haven't I seen that actress who plays Davina in something more recently where she kind of played kind of I don't remember now. There was something in a high school setting. It might have been around the time of Legacies. Around the time of the original or something. She was in something where she was playing like a popular girl and she was kind of a dick. Oh, I want to say it was October Faction. Might be the most recent thing I saw her. I believe she was in October Faction. Because the actor who, he was in season 2 3 of, it's Gil from Nancy Drew, because that was kind of his girlfriend in October Faction. I believe that was the case. I could be 100% mistaken. Regardless, tangents and all that aside. Regardless of it all, despite what, even though she was just pretending in that moment, Hope giving that answer basically created a crack in the armor, and that allowed the other version of herself to kind of peek through and talk to her, and they confront each other. It's like, right. It's like, oh, you claim that your feelings and everything are, and your family wants to say that your feelings and stuff like that are a strength, but it's not your weak. But she's like, no, the fact is I'm here right now proves I am strong. Like, the fact is that you are the one that's weak. Because I love that she points out the hypocrisy of, like, you saying, like, without my humanity, you think it is, like, all feelings, like, none of your feelings exist and you're able to bury them. But it's like, no, you still do feel emotions. You feel anger and resentment. Like, you feel all that. And it's like, right, if anything, she's like, you might be the most emotional person I know. And I know Lizzie Saltzman, so. But it's because humanity is having all those emotions, those negative emotions, and not giving into them. So it's like, right, don't sit here and pretend like you're like, oh, you're an emotionless person. Like, you have all these emotions and they've been driving your recklessness, and you just don't have your humanity to kind of balance that out. And so both of them kind of talking about their positions on who they are, of like, right, I'm, humanity-less Hope is saying that she's the one that ends up getting stuff done. Like, you can't do anything without me. But Hope with her humanity is like, right, if you really had control over this place, the only thing that can kill a tribrid is a red oak stake. And I'm able to manifest one here, you can't. And ends up killing her other self because it's like, right, I don't need you around anymore. But it's like, right, you're always going to need me because I'm the one who can get stuff done when you can't. So it is this interesting and complicated dilemma of like battling for your consciousness and your soul to some extent. They also brought up an interesting conversation because a little bit of resentment she had humanityless hope was that she'd never be able to have children. But it's like, right, your dad was a hybrid, and him and Haley managed to have you, and, you know, it's like, you are the tribrid. You are the only being of your kind. Plus, you know, so it's like, right, things could still work out for you probably there, because as a tribrid, you kind of break the very nature of things. But I think, but their inclination was more so, right, Klaus was able to have children, and his blood flows through your veins, so that's enough in its own right to make it so that you can have children. You can have children, so, which is interesting. I think that's going to be an interesting development. I guess that's going to play very true into things, that there's going to be validity to that, so. But ultimately, Hope, you know, escapes from the spell, and she's happy because it's like, right, she's back with her humanity, but her other self is there. Which, the interesting timing about this, I mean, this has been happening beforehand, but it's just what's happening at the same time as Moon Knight, where we have a lot of this kind of going on, control over the body, of fighting for who gets control. And so the other Hope, without her humanity, is like, right, this isn't over, don't think the war's over. But it's like, yeah, but you're not in a powerful enough position to take back control. It's like, yeah, but this war is far from done, so it's only a matter of time. And I think what is going to ultimately have to happen is, sadly, Hope she can't really get rid of that, because it's a very yin and yang thing. She needs both sides. They have to find some way to come together. If you've ever seen the show Haven, kind of how Audrey's story ends up playing out, her true self and Audrey kind of had to come together as one. And I forgot I'm blanking on her character's real name. Was it Mara? It's been so long now. I want to say that was it. They ultimately fused together at the end, and Audrey became the only one that existed anymore. So I think the same thing is going to happen here, where Hope is going to have to fuse together with both sides, because they both make up who she is. She can't have one without the other. It's, you know, the darkness with a little bit of light, the light with a little bit of darkness. They all kind of make up who she is. And I think that's something she's going to have to kind of fully come to terms with going forward. But for right now, having her humanity back on, probably like having that dual side will probably benefit her to some extent, because she'll probably be able to listen to like herself without her humanity, while having her humanity kind of being able to judge whether or not that's the right move or not. It's interesting because Alaric is kind of in the same boat right now. He's like, right, our old friend he wanted to kind of talk to, and I was like, who is it going to be? And he got the crystal. I was like, oh, is it going to manifest? Like, what's going on? He manifested his old self back when he was a vampire hunter, which also just further proves just how much Alaric has changed and grown over the years. Like, this is the same man that became good buds with Damon. So much of his experiences shaped him into the man that he is now. The reason why he cares so much about these students who are supernatural creatures, but his other self is like the vampire hunter, him being like, you should kill all of them. The moment your daughter became one, you should have killed her, you know? But because with this war coming up on just, you know, obviously Alaric, if he would sacrifice himself, if a sacrifice is needed to win this war against the gods, he'd gladly allow it to be himself. But if it happens to be one of his students, he won't let that go. He won't let that fly. So he needed a strategy that, right, someone who's as ruthless as who he was back then, if I could get a strategy from you that maybe I'm not willing to see because of how much I've changed and grown. And he's like, right, there's no hope for you. Your student is going to die, and so are you. But I like that Alaric kind of admits, like, right, this experience talking to you, like, opened my eyes to some stuff, and, like, I'm never going to see you again. Because Alaric is proud of the man that he's made mistakes, but this whole conversation is about coming to terms with all sides of yourself, I think. And he finally does, even to the point he shaves, and he's like, yeah, I'm kind of... he found some clarity through it all, got the answers he needed. So, Hope is moving in the right direction. Alaric is moving in the right direction. Then we kind of get on the flip side of things, kind of the complicated nature of everything with Aurora, obviously asking the questions of like, cool, so if we get the key, how do we know which sarcophagus to open to find Kronos, the one who will end up like turning back time for us? And like, how do we know we're making the right moves and stuff? And Elizabeth saying, like, right, let's take things one step at a time. And it's like, fine, if you want to talk about me having my little crisis, you take care of this. And when it came to, like, trying to cut Ben open and finding the key, she couldn't do it. Because Aurora's definitely had more experience with the bloody side of things in that regard. But then Ben wakes up and he knows about Jen. And it's like, right, you can't really... It's like, right, you want to wake my uncle and everything. Well, not that, talking about Kronos, about how he was always kind of like the good guy and such. So, he might be someone that is more willing to listen. And that Ben's like, I will help you. Like, there is a part of Ben this episode where he was kind of acting all mischievous. I was like, oh, you're playing Aurora and, pretending like you're working aside Aurora and Elizabeth. But I was like, maybe there is some truth in it, because you want the same thing as them, to turn back time to bring back someone that you love. It's like he couldn't do this all those years ago, but now he has an opportunity to. So, but I guess in retrospect, it should make sense, because it's like, right, you could... Because if Kronos was an option, why didn't you turn to him back then? Why did you only go to your father? I guess that should have been the sign of, like, yeah, something wasn't right with the story he told. So, but he's like, right, I know my sister. She's a lot smarter than you give her credit for, so you need to be able to manipulate her. So Elizabeth goes off and... I don't know why I'm using her full name. Lizzie goes off and manipulates... Jen into, like, it's almost kind of like, oh, our perfect day hanging out. And at first when she brought the tickets, I didn't get a good look at the tickets. I'm like, what are they? Oh, the monster trucks. I was like, oh, that's interesting that you're big into monster trucks. And then also she had a horse, but her dad, being kind of the jerk he was, wouldn't let her keep it. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you have apples prepared too. Because I love that she was like, yeah, I know you like horses, because, you know, at first I was like, could that be Ben? Well, I was about to say, could he be disguising himself as Elizabeth, like Lizzie in that regard? But I'm like, no, that magic probably doesn't work on them. So even beneficial. Well, there's the magic that helped block it so that monsters couldn't find him anymore. So I wonder, would a glamour work on a god? I assume so, because as long as it's not like magic meant to impede you in some shape or form, then it'll be fine. I don't know. I just thought about that and like, oh, would that have really worked on me, considering God's immunity to magic and such? But it turns out it's just, yeah, Lizzie taking his advice and manipulating Jen. But it turns out the whole thing was, well, because at first he lets it slip, like, right, Kronos can't actually help you. The only person that can is my father, because he's the only one that can bestow a boon upon you to make whatever you want happen. And it's like, right, don't do this, Aurora. I was like, oh, God, Aurora, don't. But then she stops when Lizzie and Jen call her up, because it turns out it's actually been a lie the entire time. It's like, wait, what? Yeah, Ben's lied to us. Kronos isn't even in one of those ones. The only one who can make what we want happen is his father. And Ben's doing all this to manipulate us, because he's trying to awaken his dad, because just like he said, he's desperate to bring back the person he loves, and the only way that's going to happen is our father is going to repay him, because like once he frees our father, he's going to repay him by giving him back what he wants, and that's the man that he loves. Sadly, he knocks Aurora out and kidnaps her. I guess it's like, right, you want her by your... Because Aurora is the distrusting person, and if it's just Liz and Jen, I guess he sees them. If they don't have Aurora, they're not as big of a threat. Which, there's so much heartbreaking elements to this. One, poor Jed. It's like, who knows how long Ben's been planning this? He probably didn't know about... He probably had to... Like, maybe when Jen hid the key in him, she didn't realize that maybe he was still somewhat conscious at the time, so he saw her hiding the key in his organ. But why not ever get it himself? So maybe it's because he never knew it was an option until now. So he probably didn't have this plan the entire time. It is probably only up until now he found out, wait, there's a key inside of me. Hearing about that, he saw an opportunity. which is like, right, you know the threat that your father is, but if it means getting what you want in the end, that's all that matters. You'll be dooming so many other people to your father's wrath, including the person you've gotten close to. And I'm sure for Jed, it's going to be like, wow, you're the person I opened up my heart to, and now you're telling me, like, and I'm sure Jed's going to be like, right, were you manipulating me the whole time? And it's like, no, it was, like I said, I think it's real. I think it's only in this episode that he started concocting this plan. Or maybe he has been playing the long game for a very long time. We'll ultimately have to wait and see in that regard. But also, your SO, do you think he's going to be happy knowing, like, wait, you doomed so many people? Yeah, you brought me back. I'm grateful for that. But to go to such an extent, you're not the man that I love. Like, you would do things to help people. And maybe that'll push him down the right path to actually help. But the board isn't what they thought it was. Because that's also the thing, too, that Ben now knows the entire strategy. He helped them out prepare against his father. Maybe that's why he's willing to do this. He'll get what he wants from his father and then leave it up to the others to stop them. He's like, right, they've already got the strategy together. They've got the tri-bred. He'll be able. They've been shown that they can stop my father. So I guess he's thinking like, it's a win-win. Yeah, it'll kind of suck because some people on their side might die. But at the very least, I get what I want. They get what they want, and everyone walks away happy. I'm sure it's kind of maybe his justification in his mind, or maybe he'll try and keep his significant other from finding out the truth about what he did in order to bring him back to life. And it's like, right, we're in this modern world and we can finally be together again after all this time, and we can start a new life. But I doubt it's going to be a happily ever after in that regard. We'll see. Your dad might screw you over and not even give you what you want in the end. So obviously Elizabeth is beating herself up because it's like, right, it's her fault. She trusted Ben. She believed that she knew best, and because of that, she got fooled. She got tricked. Now she's like, not only did I betray everyone, including the people I care about, my family, my friends, I also ended up betraying Aurora because now this has all happened. Like, I should have actually listened to Aurora from the beginning. But they were both still walking in the dark. Once again, like Aurora said, neither one of them had enough information about this. And if Lizzie had listened to, like, you're right, we don't have enough information about all this, maybe they wouldn't have easily gotten manipulated by Ben, who was trying to basically say that Jen was going to do the same thing for you. But ultimately, Jen and Lizzie go to the school, and obviously MG and Alaric's so happy to see her because it's like, right, we don't want to have to go up against Lizzie. And it's like, Lizzie's like, I'm here because Jen and her confide in each other because it's like, right, they both know messed up family circumstances, Lizzie's situation as well as Jen's situation, and Jen convinced her to come back home to see her dad because she now knows her dad's awake and okay. And she's like, I made a mistake, and things have kind of played out this way. Once again, a lot of people have contributed to, it's not just on one person. A lot of events came together to make this all happen. So everyone just trying to do what they believe was the right thing. Just all those events just culminated into just things, the dominoes playing and falling the way they have. But this does also come in line with the strategy of having Lizzie on their side again. Granted, they don't have Aurora. Well, the gods might technically have Aurora on their side because it's like, right, you might get what you want if you serve my father as well. So maybe that's the argument there from Ben and why he's keeping Aurora around. Maybe she'll be a sacrifice. I don't fully know what role Aurora is going to play for Ben when it comes to his father. So we do see that he has unlocked the sarcophagus at the end. But then there's also the other side of the episode where Caleb wants to introduce Cleo to someone that's very important to him, named Mayville, or May for short. She isn't necessarily a witch or a psychic. She doesn't really go into what her circumstances are, but she does have power, and she has the power of sight. And she's actually the one that found Caleb when he was in mid-transition. Because Cleo's like, right, like, how did you turn and he's like, yeah, that's not a story for a first date type of situation. So it'll have to wait. And she's like, I'll respect that, but eventually I do want you to tell me that story. So that is interesting. Like, a lot of that we haven't really gotten into. Because we got Jed's story now of how he ended up awakening his curse. But I'm like, I don't think we ever really got into I'm trying to remember, did we ever go into MG's situation in season 1 when we got introduced to his parents and such? I don't remember if they ever really covered that. But I think Caleb's has continued to be a bit of an enigma with his circumstances, so. But May ends up not necessarily unlocking something in Cleo. I guess, like Vardamus was saying last episode, like, there was a change in her. I guess with her powers being in the transitional state that they were in, like them being a little different now, I think it unlocked some potential that was always there. It just her powers needed to kind of be subsided a little bit to awaken whatever it is, whatever her and May's situation is. But it seems Cleo's is much more powerful, because the moment they do their thing, Cleo goes into a trance and her powers activate, and she saw the future. She saw Mystic Falls in ruin, the Salvatore school in ruin, and all of their friends dead. So it's like, right, we have to stop this future from happening. And you have Caleb saying that, like, right, he's like, I'm going to get my second date. So even more reason to save the world. But now it's like, right, we know that MG and Ethan talked about it at the end of last episode, that there's going to be sacrifices when it comes to this fight, that at the end of the day, 1 or 2 people might end up dying, and they want to make sure that they made the truth, no matter how things play out, that both of them are going to make sure that Lizzie isn't one of those people. Now the question is it going to be like Ethan and Caleb, MG and Caleb, where things might go from there? Because you're kind of getting that state where you're like, it might get in that depressing lane of they might not, Caleb might end up dying or something. You never know. Like, they could always kill someone that you kind of expected to stay around the entire time. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. I'm very excited to see where the next episode ends up taking us going forward with all of this. Still a few episodes left in this season. I looked it up. I was almost wondering whether there was only going to be 16. It's like, no, this season's going to be 20 episodes, so a little bit longer than the previous season. So still got quite a bit of room for some interesting twists, turns, and development. So it's going to be interesting to see where all this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.